So anyone watching this on the likes of YouTube, click on subscribe and follow. And if you have any questions on it, just put it in the chat group or the chat down below, and I will answer any questions you guys have. So at the moment, we're going to go through this red list here, and we're going to see what's going on with the majority of the stocks here. And we can see that Apple is trending up. We've had a sell-off over the last 7 days, but not massively, So this is something that is still trending quite nicely. I wouldn't be really looking at that till I come back to this level, and then from there we will potentially jump in this. So I'm gonna rattle through these ones here. Amazon for me is flat as a pancake. It is not something. It's not something I am looking at. Since July 2020, this has literally gone sideways. Hasn't really gone anywhere at all. Was at 3,124. It's now at 3,341. So for me, this really hasn't gone anywhere in a year and a half. So just leave it alone. Stay away from it. It's not something that we should be trading. The only reason it's here is because it's one of the FAANGs. Facebook, I know some of you guys have sort of tried to jump in on this trend, and then you jumped in here, went up slightly, and would have been stopped out, and then it went up even further, and then it stopped down. So we have this sideways movement since October. Now, whether we're going to get a breakout to the upside or what, we don't know, or how long this is going to go sideways. But if we look at here historically, we went sideways from June till March, okay, and then it took off. So this could move sideways for a little while, or slightly drop down a little bit further. But what we can see here is we're having this drop, but it's pretty flat. We're not getting a huge sell-off on the likes of these. So Apple is actually getting higher. Amazon is treading water, hasn't really gone anywhere. So there's been a decent sell-off on Amazon. Facebook, in this last month or two here, it's been since September, it's been pretty flat, hasn't really gone anywhere. Microsoft, again, it's been pretty flat and hasn't really gone anywhere. So we have this overall trend going up. We're back into this sort of double bottom area. So we've a little sort of double bottom here of that. Now, for me, I wouldn't be looking at this till it sort of come back into this area, then maybe looking at this to jump in again. But this double bottom, I'm not really interested in that at the moment. Not at this present moment in time. I would rather come back to this area, and then I'm potentially looking to jump in there. And then Google, again, look, it's pretty flat. It's pretty flat. Okay, and it's pretty flat, hasn't really gone anywhere again. It's been just treading water, hasn't really gone anywhere. And then Netflix. Now, I say FAANGs, I'm putting Microsoft in there as the FAANGs as well. It's technically not, but I'm putting it in there as well because it's up there with the biggest companies in the market there. Now, Netflix has had the biggest sell-off, okay, from the high of 700, it's down now to 600. Okay, so we've had a pretty big sell-off on like that. That's the biggest sort of sell-off we've had in the last month across the top 6 stocks. And they're traditionally the top 6. Okay, they're traditionally the top 6. So what are we learning from the FAANGs or the top 6, the 6 that have clubbed together? What's the pattern that we're seeing? Just to reiterate here, look at Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, and Netflix. First 6, mainly consolidating. Yes, mainly consolidating. Now, is consolidation good or bad for us? Is consolidation good or bad? Well, I'm not so sure that it's bad. But what's the overall market doing at the moment? What's the overall market doing at the moment? So the overall market is going down. But we have the major stocks, the major ones that drive the likes of the Nasdaq. The top 6 companies there. The only one out of the top 6 that's dropping is Netflix. Okay, so they're not hemorrhaging money. They are the guys. They're the bedrock. They make up about 60% of the overall market. So which means then that they're pretty flat. They're not really going anywhere. So if these stocks take off again, we would expect the whole market to take off again. Now, Lee, you could take that as both ways. Absolutely. There is 2 sides to this coin. That if the big 5 take off, that the market will take off. Now, notice that I didn't say which direction. So if the big 5 take off to the upside, we'd expect the market to start taking off again to the upside. If they start taking off to the downside, we could see a pretty big sell-off. We could see a pretty big sell-off. So it's just something there that I wanted to raise, that Apple is making higher highs. Microsoft is making sort of higher highs. Hasn't really gone anywhere. It's been trending massively up. Then you have the likes of Amazon, hasn't gone anywhere, hasn't moved. Facebook had its initial drop, but since September hasn't moved. Google from September again hasn't moved. Okay, so three out of those haven't moved since September. 2 of them are still in that very much that upward trend, and then 1 of them is going down. Now, if you decide to add Tesla in there, so the top 7, if you add Tesla in there, so we have 2 out of the top 7 that are selling off. Now, can anyone tell me why Netflix and Tesla are a little bit different to the other 5? Can anyone tell me why Tesla and Netflix are a little bit different? Well, Tesla is a little bit different because it's not a company that actually makes money. And what people would say, well, Henry, yes, it's making money, but compared to the market cap of the company, this makes absolute peanuts. Compared to the marketing cost or the market cap, it makes peanuts. So we are back to this area. We are back to that level. So that's why we've had a big sell-off, because there's an awful lot of people that think it's massively overextended and the market has to have a correction. So if we look at this, we get the ruler we've had on this particular one. From there, the high down to today's bar is a 26% drop. 26% drop at the moment, or 27.5. It's pretty decent. If we look at Netflix would be pretty similar. to today, 17. And Netflix is a subscription-based service. So it all comes down to subscriptions. If there's more people signing up to subscriptions, they will continue. And if they're not, they will drop. Okay, so they are very, very prone to fluctuations in the spikes if there's not more people signing up. That is something that they need to continue with. Okay, so that's why they are slightly different. Whereas the likes of Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, they make massive amounts of money. So they're very different to the likes of Tesla. And then all the rest of them, they're not subscription based. Okay, they're not subscription based, whereas the likes of Netflix is. We will have more lockdowns in January, so you'd expect subscriptions to go up. May very well. But will we see the same jump in subscriptions in this lockdown as we did in the previous one? And the answer to that is I very much doubt it. Because remember, now people have become accustomed to it. They know what they want, they know what they don't want, rather than just randomly getting Netflix just for the sake of it now. It could be jumping on to the likes of Disney. Could be jumping onto Roblox. Could be jumping onto something completely different instead of Netflix. So we're a little bit different in this one. So I'm going to continue with the rest of these here, so I wanted to bring your attention that the main players in the likes of these haven't moved yet. They haven't moved yet. Okay, so Lululemon dropped from that level and continued coming down. But McDonald's is doing extremely well. It's making higher highs. McDonald's is making higher highs at the minute. Moderna had a bit of a jump and then a drop down again. So would expect Moderna to sort of have this little bit of a jump. Why with this booster jab? It's one of these things that is being bought and sold across the world very quickly now, is these booster jabs. So would expect Moderna to potentially have a jump and may even hit that horizontal up here again. That may happen. Okay, but let's see. Is it a potential investment area around here? Absolutely. Why? Just by pure more people are buying this particular stock again. Will this help on the next earnings report here in May? Absolutely. It will be hugely beneficial to them. Nike is now coming back down into this area here. We're coming back down here. So anyone who was in this with me, we jumped in and we actually jumped out with a small loss. And why we jumped out of it? Because the sentiment in the market changed. So we jumped out of this one with a small little loss. And now we're coming back down into this area. Now, is this trend line good enough to be buying off of? Yes, it is. But is it something I would take a CFD off of? No, not at the moment. Not with the market sentiment at the moment. Not at all. Ideally, I'd like it to come back down to here, and that would be a perfect place to enter again. Walmart. Till Walmart hits here, it's not something that I'd be interested in. Disney has been having a pretty difficult time of it at the moment. It had this initial spike here from the actual subscriptions, and we're now sort of back down into this area here again. Back down into that area before I'll be interested in looking at it. Pins. So Pins is one of the social media companies that have it had its initial run from the likes of the lockdown, and now it is struggling to monetize what's going on. It's struggling to monetize what's going on. And if they can monetize the platform and get the users spending more money, then there's huge upside on the likes of this. But again, is this something that you think will continue to grow over the next 3 to 4 to 5 years? If it is, you hold on to this. If it's not, you take your profit and run. Square Inc. Square Inc. has actually continued to drop from this triple top, and it eventually broke out of this to the downside. And there's no coincidence here, because it's not massively profitable from a company side. So we'll have to wait for this to hit the bottom again, and then it should take off again. Wait for this to hit the bottom, and once it starts hitting the bottom, it should start trending like this again. People will jump back in on this. Crocs. So good thing about Crocs is the trade that we placed, we never got triggered into it. And that's the idea of putting in a pending order. That's why I love pending orders so much. It's that we didn't get triggered in. Look, never got triggered in, which meant then I didn't get stopped out, which meant it cost me no money to place this trade. I speculated on this trade and was completely wrong with it, but it cost me zero money, which is brilliant. That's the idea behind it. Now, we have a couple of areas. You could say that we're coming to this double bottom here, so I'm going to get rid of this trend line because this doesn't work anymore. We have a little horizontal level here. There, bounce, bounce, bounce. Bring it down a fraction to there. Potentially there. Potentially to this line, or we extend this up. Are they the areas we potentially be looking into? Yes, absolutely. But again, we can see the last 4 or 5 stocks we've looked at have all been dropping pretty heavily, haven't they? This one hit this level and then just took off again. Okay. Anyone that took that, well done. I know we talked about this horizontal level, and it took that. Yep, absolutely. Look, took off. But the problem with this is that this is one out of how many stocks we've gone through? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is the 16th stock, and it's the only one that's taken off. And that's a problem at the minute, is that we need the figures weighted in our favor. So this is 16 that have dropped and 1 has taken off. So 15 bad and 1 good one. So we need to wait for the market sentiment to turn around on us, and then we can take all of these stocks. We can take the majority of them. If we take some of them or the majority of them, then we have winners on most of them. We have to wait for the market to turn around for us. Nvidia for me has to come back into that area there before I'm looking to invest in it. Get rid of this as well. I know we talked about this here, but again, because of this lower high, this wouldn't have been something I was looking at. And this trend line is not great either, but potentially come back down to this double bottom, and that would be a place of interest. Adobe. Again, we talked about Adobe here on this trend line. Again, it cost us no money. Didn't cost us anything. Look, we never got triggered in. It continued coming down. We took it on this inside bar. Never got triggered in. Popped down. Cost us no money. So Henry, what's your thoughts on the Chinese stocks and the risk of being delisted? I'll run through the rest of these and then I'll jump onto those. Okay, so we have a horizontal level there. If it comes back here, we'll look to take it. So Berkshire Hathaway. It took us 6 or 7 months for this to break out, and eventually broke out of this level. But we could have traded it between this level before it broke out. Morgan Stanley, again, look, it's gone pretty sideways. This is now not something we're looking at the moment. AN, AutoNation. So we've now just broken that trend line. I want to leave that there slightly so to see what happens next, to see is it going to turn around now or and then slightly break this, or is it going to completely obliterate it and come back down to these areas? So we have a couple little horizontals, one there, but for me, that one there is much stronger. Bounce, bounce. If it comes down to here, we potentially look at it. Gazprom. So we made some money on this one here initially, and then haven't looked at it since. Why? Because the structure hasn't been good enough here. The structure hasn't been good enough, so it's not something I'm looking at. Beyond Meat has been dropping massively. It seems to have sort of plateaued there, come to a little bit of a sort of an area. But let's see what happens on the likes of this. But again, if it comes back to anywhere around here, you look to be jumping out of the stock. And then when it comes down here, you'd be looking to jump in again. Similarly with this one, for me, it has to come back down to this floor. So look, 1, 2, 3 touches, comes back down to there, then we will potentially look at that. So there are some levels that we are looking to get in, but they're a little bit lower. So for us to trade with the market, you can drop a little bit lower. And that is what would you call it, unheard of for people, for some new people, from people that are not here and not regular traders. We wanted to drop even further to get into areas that we were happy to invest. ITSI. So ITSI has come back into this little area here. Is this something that you guys would look at to trade? Are we back into an area that we can jump in ITSI? Well, if you are someone who is looking to jump in this long position, I would put my entry above that bar there, and my stop loss will go here. So it has to go a pretty long way for me to be triggered in, which is nearly 10% of the market. But I'm still hitting profit before it hits a record high. Even with that. Okay, so this is something that is potentially there. But again, we know that the overall sentiment is going down. So would we be looking to trade a CFD on that? Probably not. Mara, again, we're coming back to this triple bottom. CRM. So CRM had a pretty big sell-off, an initial bounce, and now we're on the way back down again. So let's see, will that continue coming down? Will that continue coming down to this one here? Bounce, bounce, bounce. Let's see if it comes down to there. Crowd. Rid of that trend line as well. Broken it. Horizontal. Has to come down to there before we're interested again. PayPal. PayPal has started to consolidate around here. Wanted to come back into this area, and then potentially it may become of interest for us. But remember, we have potential buys all across the market at the minute. You just have to find out, is the stock good enough? One. Why has the drop happened? Was it overextended, or was it making enough money to sustain itself even with this drop? And 3, if we do go into a little bit of a meltdown, okay, if the market does continue dropping around 10 or 20%, am I happy to sit through that drop? And how long will it take that stock to recover if I jump in there? They're all questions you have to ask yourself before you jump into the market at the minute. But we are getting close to really nice levels on really good stocks. Okay. So just to talk about Baidu, Baba, PDD. Now, Baidu for me is still a really, really good company. It's still a really good company. The analysis on Baidu still hasn't changed. Still hasn't changed. It seems to be sort of holding a little bit at this level. Now, the risk of being delisting, it may or may not happen. But do I think the company will survive this? Yes, even if it gets delisted. If it gets delisted, I would probably see this company take off, in my opinion. Why? Because they are around long enough. They have a wide enough client base, and it's a bit like Brexit. All this uncertainty, all the uncertainty. What happened when Brexit actually finally happened? The actual European and the UK stock market took off. Why? Because now people were certain of what's after happening. We have probably had the movements to the downside that we're probably going to get. But if the uncertainty continues, we'll probably see more to the downside. It's that if it's going to be delisted, get it delisted, get it off the market, get it off that stock exchange. And then back on the Chinese stock exchange or wherever it should be. And then all of a sudden, then people now know what's going to happen. It's this uncertainty that people jump on. That's the thing. It's investors don't want to jump in now because they don't know what's going to happen. Fear. Okay. Once it happens, then people go, well, absolutely, this is a good company or it's a bad company. And the same with the likes of Baba. Same with the likes of Baba. We've had a pretty big drop on Baba. If it's going to be delisted, get it off it. Make a decision, get it off, and then let the stock recover itself. But again, one of these things is that these Chinese stocks are not a short-term play. With the power struggle that's going on with the US, this is a long-term play that we hold on to. This is not a short-term play. So it's all, those things are all part and parcel of what's going on. PDD. I'm assuming it's this one. I've never seen this one before, so I know absolutely nothing about the stock itself. But it looks like there's a little more to drop before it hits a half decent level. Now, what I mean by delisting is that these are Chinese companies that are listed on the Nasdaq, and also some of these companies have a second listing that are on their own stock exchange. Now, with being listed on the US stock exchange, you get more exposure, you get access to overseas markets, blah, 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 blah. There's less restrictions in place. Now, with the delisting, they mean that's taken off the likes of the Nasdaq, which means that they're not allowed to be listed on the Nasdaq or the S&P or the Dow or any of those. So, which means then they have to stay in their own company or their own country. Okay, so that's the idea of it. But again, if it happens, I actually think it will be beneficial for these companies because they have then the certainty that unknown is not there anymore. Rolls-Royce, is it? .L. Yeah, Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce from the London Stock Exchange, isn't it? Bear with me. Because I know they have a couple of chart up. Why does that keep opening the new page? Now, I have a little bit of Rolls Royce, and I bought it down here, about 13% on it. Was up a little bit further when I was up here, 40, I think it was about 40 to 50%. But the thing again with Rolls Royce, it's a long-term hold. The more we go into lockdown again, I would expect more downside in the likes of the stock. Can we predict off these levels? No, we cannot predict off these levels at the minute. Why? Because it literally comes down to lockdowns. It comes down to where we're actually, whether we're locked up or not. I know it sounds a bit silly, but whether we're locked up or not, it's like someone's going to jail. Do we expect, so a little poll here, a yes or a no. Do we expect lockdown to happen in the UK? Yes or no? So the majority, hope not, most people have said yes. One person has said no. Now I'm the same. I think the minute Christmas is over, there will be a lockdown. Mark has said yes, but no one will follow the rules. You say that, Mark. You have, if you, I don't know whether you've gone into London over the weekend or even during the week, commuting into work. Is London has gone virtually by London standards. There's no one in it. Going to work, you can jump on. I've been into town a couple of times early in the morning, and there's no one on the trains anymore. Why? Everyone's working from home again. You're saying no one is going to follow the rules, but generally, the likes of Irish and English people generally follow rules. Went into London Friday and I was dead. Absolutely, I was the same. Compared to London's, it was pretty dead. No one wants to go out and get corona before Christmas. Okay, so that's the idea here. Now, with that in mind, do we then start shorting the likes of the? Do we start shorting the likes of the stocks, the travel stocks, aviation, all that sort of stuff? Absolutely, of course you can. That's an easy short, isn't it? That's an easy little easy win on you. Likes of here, Rolls Royce again. We've seen a drop here over the last month. So again, is this going to happen? Absolutely, this can continue happening across the board. Companies will go bankrupt, but unfortunately, the way they look at it, they would rather companies go bankrupt than people die. That's the way they're looking at it. Whether that's right or wrong is a different matter. But they're trying to save people's lives. They're trying to save Christmas. They're trying to do right by everyone. And some of us think it's good. Some of us think it's bad. It's just the way it is at the minute. We look at Germany. Germany's gone into is Germany going into a full lockdown or a curfew? Ireland has gone into a curfew. Holland has gone into a full lockdown. Okay, this was the first time someone asked me for a green pass to drink a coffee in Italy. And that's it. It's these regulations are now starting to come in across the board, which means then that the likes of the travel stuff like that there is going to drop. So you either hold on to the likes of this long term, or you take your 13% profit, and if it drops, then you buy it back up at a lower rate, depending on how much of a lockdown we think we're going to go into. So let's have a quick look at the likes of crypto, of BTC. Now, BTC has been running nicely to the downside. We've slowly come down, and it's consolidated there. Okay, so we talked about it on the other market. Is consolidation good or bad for us? And again, at this particular point, it's good. But looking at what's going on here, this consolidation, would you expect a breakout to the upside or the downside in this consolidation? If you were looking at this and this consolidation, would you be looking for a breakout to the upside or downside? Which do you think has the higher probability? Now, I understand everyone wants it to go up. Heaven knows. So I have Tyson who set up, and then Yuan, Mark, Adnan, Wayne, Jonathan, and Lee. Everyone has set down. Okay. Now, probability wise, would expect it to go down. Probability wise. Why? Because the overall momentum is down. The overall momentum is down here. So the probability is that we may get a small bump out, but you'd expect it to continue on down. And then when it gets to a price, now I don't know whether it's 43 here or 42, or whether it's down here at the 39,000 level, where people think that this is a good buy again. Okay, where people think this is a good buy again. And once we get to that point, then we should see a takeoff again. So look, comes down here. We had this consolidation. It popped up, it dropped down lower, consolidated again here for 10 days, and then it took off. The difference here is we're having this consolidation here first and foremost, and then we're either going to get a pop to the upside or downside, but the probability would tell us that it would come down here first before it would take off. And again, I can't guarantee that that's going to happen. But we do have a little triangle going on there, a descending triangle. But again, I have my order there, I have my order there, and I have my order there. So if these markets hits these areas, then we can available. We can jump in at any particular direction. We're jumping in as it's going down. So once it takes off, we're already in the market. We're already in the market. Solana. This one has held a little better than the likes of Bitcoin. It's held a little bit better, but again, we're starting to get this slow lower highs and lower lows on this. We're starting to get this coming down a little bit. Do we think that will come down and hit this floor here? I would expect so too. Will it drop lower than this one? I would probably expect as well potentially to come down to here. And then sort of take off. Because remember, this is sort of one of those pump and dumps. So this will eventually slowly make lower high and lower lows. It will eventually come down to an area somewhere potentially around the 50 to the 100,000 mark. And then hopefully once it gets to this area, then we have the next wave of people jumping in on it. We just have to make sure that we have bought it in areas that we're happy with. Am I looking to buy it there? No. Would I buy it here? Potentially, yes. Would I buy it down here? Yes, I would buy a little bit. Absolutely. Would I buy some here? Yes, again. And then the next wave of upside, hopefully with this particular one, then I have dollar cost averaged in on the way down, so I don't have to even worry about it on the way up. So Matic has been the stronger of them over this whole period. Now, when I say the stronger of them, yes, so it has gone on and made massive returns on investment, but this one had that run here, and now it seems to be slowly but surely taking off. It seems to be slowly heading up. It seems to be doing what a normal stock or a normal investment should be doing, trending quite nicely. It's come back and jumped in here. Did anyone jump in here? And if you did jump in here, you jumped in there. Present moment in time, you're up 34%. Well done. Good trade, anyone that's like that. Now, what upside is on this? Who knows? If it hits here, do we take profit? So I suppose that's actually a good question. We're here at the moment. I'm 38% up on this. If it hits the ceiling, do I take my profit and run? Do I take, what would that be? That's another 4%. So I'd be 42% up. Do I take my 42% and now exit out of Matic if it hits that ceiling? Yes or no? So I've had someone said par close, someone else said take some of it, someone else said absolutely no brainer. Carol said I would. But then the other side of it is, well, isn't this going to the moon? Isn't this going to the moon, guys? Isn't this going to the moon? Jeff has said let it run. But see the difference when you look at things with a proper trading eye. Nothing goes to the moon really. So the idea would be is then buy again. So the idea really would be is to either par close or jump out of the trade here. And then be happy, because if this continues going up, don't be, oh, Henry, I should have held on to it. I should have left the trade open. I should have done this. If my aunt had balls, she would be my uncle. Okay? Anyone who is in Ireland or spoke to an Irish person, you will know that saying. Be happy with the 42% that you've just made. Because this will drop again. Look, it had a run, it dropped. It had another run, it dropped. It had a run, it dropped. Okay, so it will drop again. All you have to do is, again, put your order at this level. And if it comes back down this level, you're back in again. And then see if it hits this ceiling again, you have another 42% to the upside. If every trade you took, you made 42% here, or to be specific, okay, because we're not making 42% in here. You're making 0.4% return on this, okay? 0.4% return on this particular trade. You'd be doing all right, wouldn't you? If that was your investment every single time. So the idea is to find out these areas, find these levels, and par close your trade. Take your profit. Let the market drop then, and then jump back in. Or do you think that with the way Bitcoin is, the Bitcoin is down around, what was it, 43 or 4, do we say it was? And it looks like it's only going to go up. If you think that's going to go up, then you probably have more upside on the likes of these. So then you hold on to them. What's your long-term goal on the likes of this? Is your long-term goal on the likes of Matic that this is loads of room, this is one of the ones that are going to run? Then you hold on to it. You par close the trade, take half off the table, let the other half run, and if it drops back down, the half that you close, you put it back in and take some more out of it. Take some more out of the market. Okay, so don't be afraid to trade these as well. Cardana. Whereas Cardana, we're down a little bit on this. So our entry here, we got triggered in. So we're slightly down on this one. Now, again, a bit like Bitcoin, very much like Bitcoin. Very much like Bitcoin. We have this going on. So do we expect this breakout to be the upside or the downside, in your opinion? Breakout to the up or downside? Well, by looking logically, we would expect it to go down to the downside. But remember, logic doesn't always come along with the likes of these. But logic would tell you that this would go down to the downside. Logic would tell us that this floor here at $1 here, that's a really key level. That's a really key level. And it keeps being rejected. So historically, we would expect it to come back down to this level and then take off. So the idea would be is that we have orders at this floor, and then we'll expect it to jump back up again. And then when it takes off, there's loads of room to the upside on them. But remember, there's no need for fear of loss with the likes of these. There's no need for fear of loss. Why? Because we're now looking at these things with an open mind. We're getting back into these areas. We're looking for them to come back to horizontal levels. With eToro, we also, with Cardana, we also receive staking rewards with eToro. With most brokers, you receive staking rewards on Cardana. But yes, it's a crypto that gives a dividend. Absolutely. Absolutely, that's exactly what you want. So the idea would be is you would hold on to this one long term. Even if it's continued to drop, with the likes of that, it's a good idea to potentially buy some at a lower rate if you think it's going to go up. Why? Because one, it gives you a staking, and then two, the potential growth on it as well. Okay, so you have two things to potentially on that. You get paid twice on it. So the idea here on the likes of this, again, we're back at this floor, we're back into this area, we're back at that particular point. Now, will this hit this floor and bounce up? Again, the overall sentiment at the minute in this market is down. So do we expect a big bounce to the upside here? No. It could even slowly go down to this area. But is this a point where we can potentially buy this? Absolutely. Absolutely. But if it comes down to there, we'll buy some more. We don't put all our money at this particular point. We put some of it. We put a little bit more than at this point. If it comes back to here, then we take off. These are all buying zones that we're looking to get in on these crypto. So someone has asked, so travel stocks too short, Airbnb, Rolls-Royce, BA. Well, not so much Airbnb. But again, it hasn't done well. It hasn't done well. There is a pretty hard level there at that point. So yes, you have some room down to there, but Airbnb is probably a little less, what would you call it? It's more immune to the likes of this because people then travel, even in lockdown, people will travel within their country. People will rent Airbnbs, then rent out the whole Airbnb. And then whoever owns the Airbnb will get it cleaned, and then someone else will come in. Now, obviously, it won't be as busy, but that's what people are doing. They're traveling the countryside, even though we're in lockdown. They are using them, so not as much. Rolls-Royce, we've seen Rolls-Royce will have drops, and they have the contracts, all that sort of stuff from the other companies. And BA, and if we look at the likes of BA, we have there's a couple of levels on this. Horizontal, there. There, and then put one at the bottom. Okay, when it breaks this floor, not if it breaks the floor, when it breaks this floor, the next area is down here. Next area is down here. So do we expect it to hit that floor? I probably do. I probably do. I expect them to hit there. Delta Airlines. Very, very similar situation, isn't it? Very similar situation. And we don't have many levels on the likes of this one. It has broken that level. There's probably one there. There again. Okay, so probably expect that to get back down to about $27. Okay. TU. Okay. They've actually broken that floor. It's actually made sort of a lower low. But again, can we trade these short any Toro? No, we can't. No, we can't. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't trade them short. Someone said I traded AstraZeneca short. So if I'm reading correctly, is AstraZeneca the only one of the big ones all long? Yeah, you took it long. AstraZeneca is the only one that hasn't a booster. Is that correct? Did I read that correct? Has anyone else read that? Or am I wrong with that? So yes. So AstraZeneca is the only one that doesn't have a booster. So if that's the case, then out of the big ones that we have here, we have Moderna, we have AstraZeneca, and we have Pfizer. Would expect AstraZeneca to be the big loser in that then if they don't have a booster already. And look at the difference. Look at the difference where Pfizer's gone. Now, I bought Pfizer back here, I think it was, somewhere along here, and got out of it. Why? Because it was going nowhere. It was going nowhere, and all of a sudden, we had a big takeoff. Yeah, you say that, but looking at it, even looking at it, we're about 40 quid. We would have made 50% on it. Okay, you win some, you lose some. You win some, you lose some. When were we actually? We're in around here, was it? We're early 2020, somewhere around here, and we jumped in, but it wasn't going anywhere. And even we would have been down. Would have been down. What, about 20%, 15, 20%, and then it took off. But again, it's one of those things, and that's the difference when you compare the two, is that AstraZeneca hasn't got that one, whereas Pfizer has. Moderna also has a jab, and the jab's a little fucker. I actually took it. I took it on Thursday, and my arm is killing me for 3 days. And we've had a little spike to the upside because of that. Whereas they can get the repeat business, whereas AstraZeneca can. Now, they will eventually bring out something. I have no fear in the world they will, or they'll buy someone's booster. But, okay, everyone? I did yesterday. I'm sick. Yeah, I was the same. I got 2 AstraZenecas, and then the booster was Pfizer. But look, everyone, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, and I will chat to you all on Wednesday. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.